Queen Elizabeth II has been in charge of the Commonwealth since 1952, making her the longest-serving British monarch. Her time as the Queen of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth has seen a dramatic shift in the world around her. During her reign, the UK adopted the metric system, which resulted in a threefold increase in global population. The Queen has used her position to promote peace and charity in everything she does, so she became a well-known, respected, and influential woman in the world's history. Many people believe that Queen Elizabeth II is nothing more than a figurehead because of her many accomplishments. Here are 10 of the Queen's powers. Number 1. Queen Elizabeth II doesn't need a passport to travel. It is not necessary for Queen Elizabeth II to carry a British passport when traveling abroad. There is no reason for Her Majesty to issue her own passport since all British passports are issued in the name of Her Majesty. The Prince of Wales and other members of the royal family still require a passport in order to travel abroad. The Queen is unable to issue a large number of passports each year because there are more than 60 million people in the United Kingdom. She now has several ministers working on her behalf to issue all passports in order to resolve this problem. Having visited over 120 countries on nearly 300 overseas trips, Her Majesty the Queen certainly makes the most of not having to carry a passport when she travels. Number 2. The Queen does not need a driver's license. British driving licenses, like passports, are issued only in the holder's name. Essentially, this means that she doesn't need a license to drive. In 1945, she was just 19 when she got her driver's license. Even at this early age, she had a good understanding of how to operate a vehicle. When she was 18, she enlisted in the Auxiliary Territorial Service and received training as a truck driver and mechanic during World War II. It's not uncommon for her to drive herself around her private property or find a nice place to take her corgis for a walk, despite the fact that she is frequently driven around by members of her royal staff now. Number 3. Queen Elizabeth II is solely responsible for selecting and appointing an elected Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Queen Elizabeth II must stay neutral on issues of public policy because she is the leader of the country. Isn't it irrelevant that she has the right to vote or run for public office? Here, exactly what's happening. The Queen must appoint a new Prime Minister after an election or resignation. She bases her choice on who has the most support in Parliament. All 14 British Prime Ministers and the Presidents of the United States she has had the honor of meeting during her reign have met the Queen in person. Number 4. Queen Elizabeth II has the authority to veto any legislation passed by Parliament. Assent by the monarch is the final step in the legislative process, which begins with passage through the upper and lower houses of Parliament. In order to become law, a bill must be signed by the Queen. She can easily stop it from becoming law if she doesn't approve. While Queen Elizabeth II has the power to veto any legislation that comes before her, the William has never had to use that power. As it turns out, the last time this kind of sway was used was in 1708, when Queen Anne withheld her support for legislation to reinstate the Scottish militia. Number 5. Queen Elizabeth II has the right to claim ownership of any and all unmarked mute swans found in open water. It may seem out of place next to her other impressive abilities, but we couldn't resist including it. The right to claim ownership of any and all unmarked mute swans found in open water since the 1100 seconds has been universally recognized by everyone. Swans were served as a delicacy at banquets and feasts of the past. A severe punishment was meted out to anyone who hurt or killed a swan without the monarch's permission. Even if you only steal one swan egg, you're looking at a year and a day in prison. The monarch frequently gave away his or her royal right to own swans to commoners. Today, only 3 organizations have the legal right to keep mute swans in their care. Ownership of the Abbotsbury Swanery dates all the way back to the 14th century. Since the 15th century, 2 London livery companies, the Vintners and the Dyers, have held similar rights. Swans are now protected in the United Kingdom, where they are no longer consumed as food. So, you might be asking yourself, is this law now nullified? In a way, no. The law governing the ownership of mute swans does not apply only to birds that are alive at the time of purchase. Anyone wishing to taxidermize or use a dead swan for educational or research purposes must first obtain permission from the Queen's Swan Marker. If your wish is granted, you are not allowed to sell the swan for profit. Number 6. Royal pardon. The Queen has the power to pardon her subjects. Anyone convicted of a crime can receive a royal pardon or have their sentence reduced by Queen Elizabeth II. An official royal pardon was originally intended to free someone from the death penalty, which was abolished in the United Kingdom in 1996. After seeing a wild boar attack a prison employee and rushing to his aid, The Queen used her authority to shorten 2 inmates' sentences at HMP Prescott in 2001. Farm manager was saved by the heroic actions of these 2 individuals. The Queen granted them a reduced sentence, and they were both released from prison early as a result. The person in charge. The last time the Queen used this power was in 2013 when she gave Alan Turing, who is known as the father of modern computing, a posthumous royal pardon. This means that the man was forgiven after his death. During World War II, Alan Turing was a pioneer in computer technology and a codebreaker. His work on the Enigma machine was critical to the Allies' victory in World War II. In the end, Alan Turing was convicted of homosexuality and had his security clearance revoked. This is unfortunate. After that, he was put on house arrest. Cyanide poisoning claimed the life of Alan Turing in 1954. Number 7. The Queen has the authority to exercise command over the armed forces of the United Kingdom. The Queen, then a princess, enlisted in the Auxiliary Territorial Service in 1945, making her the first member of the royal family to do so on a full-time basis in the armed forces. Since that time, the Queen and the armed forces have maintained a close bond of mutual respect and understanding. The Queen, as Commander-in-Chief of the British Armed Forces, commands all of her troops. She has the authority to appoint and dismiss military officers, as well as oversee all military operations. When it comes down to it, she doesn't have much to do with the military and instead defers to the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State for Defense, among other people in authority. Number 8. Only Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has the authority to declare war on another country on behalf of the UK. It is only Queen Elizabeth II, as Commander-in-Chief, who can order the United Kingdom to wage war against other countries. As recently as World War II, King George VI exercised this kind of authority. Parliament was unable to debate the military action against Iraq bill because the Queen refused to sign off on it. As a result, the United Kingdom was unable to wage war on Iraq. What one says is what one gets. Number 9. No one can detain Her Majesty the Queen. Yes, the Queen of the United Kingdom cannot be detained. The reason she doesn't need a passport or a driver's license is very similar to this. It's because justice is done in her name. That's why. Defendant R is commonly referred to as R versus in criminal proceedings. The R stands for Regina, Latin for Queen. In the case of Queen Elizabeth II, you may be looking at time in Her Majesty's prison system if you are found guilty. Having a Queen versus Queen court, and then sending her to her own prison is simply not an option. Number 10. The Queen celebrates 2 birthdays in a calendar year. However, it is worth noting that this is not a full-fledged power. Queen Elizabeth II's birthday is celebrated on the second Saturday in June. However, she was actually born on April 21, 1926, in Mayfair, London. Her official birthday is celebrated with other members of the royal family at the Trooping the Colour parade. This parade has marked the official birthday of the British sovereign for well over 250 years now. This spectacular parade consists of over 1,400 soldiers, 200 horses, and 400 musicians. People from all over the world flock to the streets of London to be a part of the celebrations. Her actual birthday is a much quieter affair, with a 41-gun salute in Hyde Park, a 62-gun salute at the Tower of London, and a small 21-gun salute in Windsor Great Park. She usually celebrates this birthday with her close family, and sometimes even has a walkabout outside Windsor Castle, greeting fans and collecting her birthday cake. Which of these abilities would you most like to be given? Would you prefer to celebrate 2 birthdays a year, with gun salutes and a marching band as an option?